And we're on. All right, go ahead and introduce yourself first of all.
Sure. My name's Patrick. I've been running a channel for like around 9 years now called Ground Zero Salem. I'm located in Salem, Massachusetts. I did not live here for the full entirety of it. I was in North Carolina for a little bit. Talk about metal records, hardcore records, all kinds of physical media. Try to
Where
occasionally
in
be entertaining.
where in North Carolina did you live?
I was outside of Raleigh. I was in the suburbs of Raleigh for about almost 3 years.
Okay, all right. I don't know if you've ever heard of Hickory, North Carolina. That's where I am.
Where's that
It's
near?
uh, it's basically we're about an hour from Charlotte. We're in the almost the dead middle of the
Oh,
state. Yeah, it's kind of a barrel and dirt and barrel, in the middle of nowhere kind of town. Um, but yeah, that's where I was going to actually start with I'm calling it an interview. It's really just a conversation, but
sure.
whatever. Um, when did you? So you started 9 years ago, but
Mhm.
in what ways was the YouTube metal sphere different than it is now?
Uh, I don't know. I mean, I think most stuff on YouTube was a lot smaller then. Um, like I never paid attention to YouTube outside of what I did until around COVID, and that's when I started learning about like all these weird mini e-celeb type people like Spoonie and like all the whole history of like gamer stuff and all that. I didn't know about any of that stuff.
Hmm.
And now I know way too much. But
Yeah.
in terms of our sphere, it was pretty small. Like my situation was that I had just had a kid as a new dad. I just bought a house in the suburbs. Up until that point, I'd had a very like vibrant, full, active kind of existence where I was going to see bands play like 2 or 3 times a week because there's a
Hmm.
lot going on in Boston, and I lived in Boston. So, with fatherhood that came along, like obviously my priority shifted to my son, but I still kind of wanted to engage and just nerd out about music. And that's when I discovered like people that were pretty prominent at the time, like Canyon Bickle and Sean Blaggereth. And I liked all their videos, but I never really felt compelled to make my own until I started watching like Eric Bauer and Marty Worm, people that were closer to my age, I guess, that I could relate to a little bit better. And
Hmm.
basically, there was a thread going around about what are the top whatever albums that got you into death metal, and I made that and got a really positive response. So I just kept going, really. But as far as different, like I'll give you an example. Like and again, like I mean, I haven't been as engaged with like fellow VC or metal YouTubers other than like my super tight bros as much.
Hmm.
I feel bad about that. I'm trying to be more. Um, but I kept getting, on my news feed, I kept getting stuff like, is metal YouTube dying? And then I'll click on it and I'm like, I have no idea who these people are. But they're like people that make a living off of it, like Nick Nocturnal or who I don't know any of these people.
Yeah.
Like a lot of it's like more on the metal core kind of side of things and like the guitar shredder, like Jared Dines type of shit, which is just not
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
not my thing. So there's a lot of people I don't recognize.
Hmm.
Um, but I think largely like the people who do what I do, which is just kind of like babbling unscripted about stuff that they're into, whether it's stuff they just bought or what they're listening to. I think it's pretty much held fast. Like there might be, I think there was an upshoot like around COVID, and that might have gone down a bit.
Hmm.
But I think people that just do collection updates and just want to chew the fat about what they're into, I think that's remained pretty steadfast.
Okay. Yeah, I was curious because I'm pretty new to that community. I'm not new to metal, but I'm new to the YouTube metal community, and I'm still finding my way through it. Um, you mentioned COVID. I didn't discover this kind of stuff until after COVID. But I'm saying, where should I go now? I didn't actually write out questions or anything. Maybe I should have. I
Hmm.
should have written out some notes beforehand. Um, but
That's
anyway,
no fun.
what have you been listening to lately? How about that? What have you been listening to?
So I went on a really long jag of like listening to tons of like doom metal and stuff that made sense in my brain, whatever like that fit with that, like either like very stonery kind of Sabbathy kind of doom, and a lot of
Hmm.
actual 70s hard rock and prog that's kind of weirder and heavier. I was really on that trip like for quite a while. Um
How old are you again?
I'm 47.
Okay, you're not that much older than I am. Okay, I'm 41.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um but like I something just kind of snapped and I started listening to a ton of black metal, which I talk about it all the time. Like I'm like, this is not my forte. Like I know a fair amount about it, but I don't know nearly as much as other stuff, blah, blah, blah. But I've just been kind of nothing really super specific, but just wanting to hear like really icy black metal. And it's obviously like a seasonal thing, which seems very basic and silly, but like it is very cold out and it does make sense right now. So kind of,
Yeah.
I mean, all the heavy hitters in black metal I'm pretty familiar with, Mayhem and
Mhm.
Dark Throne, all that stuff. I've known that for years, but digging a little bit deeper and like checking out some big name bands that I really haven't messed with that much that I knew were reputable and like of course had massive discographies. Like I've really getting into Gorgoroth for the first time, and
Okay.
Carpathian Forest, kind of like the second and third tier Norwegian stuff, I
Hmm.
guess, along with like a little bit of Melodeath, early Dark
Hmm.
Tranquility, stuff like that. Just kind of melodic, sharp, cold kind of sounding stuff, I guess.
Yeah. I like some of the Gothenburg stuff, and not a lot of it. It all starts to sound the same after a while, but I do love
True.
like early In Flames.
Yep.
Like the Jester Race is probably my favorite Melodeath album. Um, I love that one. I never got
Yeah,
into
that's great.
Dark Tranquility much, but I need to check them out more.
The gallery is really good. The super early stuff is pretty
Yeah.
great. I mean, I'm pretty new to it. I did get the Jester Race and Horacle like around the time those came out, and
Mm.
I just been dipping back into it recently. And Lunar Strain, I really like the very first one. I think that record's sick. I really enjoy that.
Yeah, I got into them like it wasn't long after Colony came out.
Okay,
Um,
yeah,
and it was right before I lost interest in whatever they were doing because that was right. They seemed to hit a peak and then they went downhill really quickly. They seemed to go straight downhill. With
yeah.
like even what was it called? The one after Colony. I don't even like that one.
Clayman, is that the one?
Clayman. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I don't even.
I
I don't
tr-
know.
I tried with both of those, and I'm like, this is way too happy. Like I can't. This is not. I
Yeah,
like a lot of happy music, but I don't want to hear this happy music. Like I don't want to hear happy death metal. Like I'll throw on some
yeah.
like No Effects or something if I want to hear something that kind of is upbeat like that. I don't know.
Well, that brings up an interesting. Okay, so punk.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge punk guy, but I'm always interested in the relationships between different subgenres like
Hmm.
punk and metal, and because I do love Bad Religion.
Hmm. Great band.
I'm a big fan of theirs. But what were you? Did you start with metal, or were you more into punk and hardcore first?
I mean, there it was so close. I would say, technically it was metal, but I got into everything at a very early age. I grew up during the golden era of MTV, and the
Same.
music
Yeah.
videos that hit me as a kid, a very young kid, were all the hair metal videos. Like it was like "Love in an Elevator" by Aerosmith,
Yep.
"Unskinny Bop" by Poison, some I think "Kickstart My Heart" by Motley Crue, killer track,
Hmm.
all
Yeah.
that stuff. And then but at the same time, I was a skateboarder. So, and it's so funny thinking about the stuff was considered like cutting edge and underground before it blew up. Like Red Hot Chili Peppers were considered like, I wouldn't say super punk, but very underground and alternative at a certain point. So I
Yeah.
liked
Sure.
that stuff and got into Mother's Milk by the Red Hot Chili Peppers around the same time. And
Hmm.
then what I figured out somehow, either through Thrasher magazine, Skateboard magazine, or just word of mouth or whatever, I figured out like, oh, there's this more extreme stuff that'll probably piss off my parents more. And
Hmm.
I bought Fistful of Metal by Anthrax and Justice for All. and Game Over by Nuclear Assault all around the same time, very early. Like I was in like I think between 5th and 6th grade. I got into all that. So metal, yes, but also right after that, a kid like dubbed me like some Dead Kennedys and also crossover stuff like Agnostic Front live at CBGB's has
Hmm.
like very metal sounding songs, very punk sounding songs. It's kind of like an early best of live. And SOD Speak English or Die. Somebody dubbed that for me, and I got into DRI. So it all kind of coalesced like very quickly, all at the same time in like a 2-year period. And at the
Hmm.
end of it, I was already listening to death metal. Like, like end of 7th grade, I was picking up the Grind Crusher comp, and it was kind of off to the races from there on out.
Okay.
You know, so
That's funny because I started the same, almost the same way. By my first favorite bands were all hair metal bands. That was like the first kind of music that I was into. Like I was really into Skid Row and Def Leppard, all all that around the same time. Then from there, I got into grunge because that hit
mm-hmm.
right before I got into my teens. So I was a huge grunge kid, still
Yep.
am. But I mean, I got into that stuff. And my favorite band of all time is Alice in Chains.
That was a big one for me too.
Yeah,
Because I when facelift came out, there wasn't anything like it, and I mean
hmm,
it was before even Nirvana broke. It was like a year before,
yeah,
and
it was.
facelift and not the same scene or genre necessarily, but pretty adjacent to it is was Faith No More, The Real Thing. I was obsessed with that too. So, I mean,
Yeah,
those two were huge for me. Like, and there was a certain level of crunchiness and heaviness. Like, it wasn't the most extreme thing ever, but it kind of upped the bar for me in a sense, you know,
yeah.
especially the
I
real
had
thing.
I had a Mike Patton phase in high school.
Mm,
Yeah, I love Faith No More. Actually, Angel Dust. I do have memories of seeing like the video for Midlife Crisis on MTV, even though it wasn't a hit, quote in quotes, a hit. They were still on MTV for a while. But yeah, I love the real thing, Angel
hmm
Dust, King for a Day, all that stuff. Um, it's funny because I posted a short the other day about the death of MTV. Apparently, MTV is officially no more.
Finally, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, they've been on life support forever, but it's amazing just how much, because I mean, you and I were kind of raised with MTV,
hmm
and kids today don't under. I mean, I guess you could watch any music video on YouTube, and that is a good thing. I think. I think it's a good thing. But
Yeah.
there was something about seeing it. I don't know. There's something communal about seeing it on TV, like seeing the premiere of the new whatever, the new Stone Temple Pilots at 3 o'clock. There was something
Oh,
about that.
yeah, for sure. And the thing is like I've been hearing this term a lot lately, and I should probably like see if there's any videos on it or read up about it. But it's weird that people think of this whole concept as like odd or like antiquated now, but it makes sense as people talk about the era of the monoculture is when everybody was into the same stuff because there was only so many avenues of
Yeah.
entertainment. People
Hmm.
talk about that with movies, and now it's I mean things are very divisive politically in America right now, so it's like, oh well, this movie's or video games even more so, oh this video game's for the woke people and this is for
Hmm.
the red pilled chads and like whatever bullshit modern
Yeah.
stuff that makes my head spin. And I think just that era of like there was a certain type of movies that came out, like everybody went to the movie theater, some the rich kids had
Mhm.
HBO, you know, that I mean broadband changed everything. You know what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
can be very specifically into very specific things now without really having to work for it. Like we
Hmm.
did. And that's fine. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just things change. But I think younger people not getting why MTV is such a big deal. Like I get why they don't, but it
Mhm.
really was. And most of the time growing up, after a certain period, like maybe midway through high school, all throughout my 20s, I hated MTV. I did
Yeah.
not like what
Yeah.
it became. I wasn't in. I thought Jackass was kind of funny, but like a lot of those guys I found annoying. Like all the reality show stuff, I hated. You know,
Yeah, the
a lot
real
of
world. I hated the real world. It,
yeah, And it's crazy to think because the Real World was a huge deal. It was like that and Big Brother in the UK, I think, were the two big reality shows, and it like came to
Hmm.
define like a major cornerstone of what entertainment would become,
Yeah,
for better, for worse, in my opinion. But you know, um, so yeah, I mean, it does make me a little bit like melancholic to think about MTV being gone, but I feel like I mean, it's been nothing but just that show ridiculousness. I think like like 24
yeah,
hours a day for the past like 5 years. So, you know,
yeah, yeah. I tuned out of MTV around the same time. There was a point, like in the mid '90s, where it didn't seem out of character to see a video by Prong or Helmet during the
mhm.
day,
Yeah,
and that didn't happen after 2000. That just didn't happen.
no, no. And also when MTV started to branch out in their own entertainment outside of music videos, a lot of that stuff in the early to late 90s was awesome. Like Liquid Television, very,
Yeah,
very
yeah,
cool
yeah,
creative animation. The State, like
yeah,
hilarious skit show.
yeah. Hmm.
Syphil and Ollie, the show with the sock puppets, so good. Like
Yeah,
it's one of my favorite television shows of all time.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
at a certain point, I think somebody pushing the pencils over there was like, this isn't making enough money or whatever. We need Carson Daly with like girls in bikinis or whatever, and all that stuff kind of
Yeah,
fell by the wayside.
yeah. Even Beavis and Butthead. And I actually discovered a lot of bands through Beavis
Mm,
and Butthead.
yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
yeah, I mean, that was the first time I saw the video for God of Emptiness,
Hmm. They made
and
fun of
it's
it. It's-
yeah, well, well, I was like 10 or 11. It scared, it kind of creeped me out at first. Now it's my favorite music video of all time. I love
oh,
the
it's awesome. That
yeah,
fallen angel thing. That's great. So
yeah.
cool.
That's really those are solid creature effects for just a basic low budget. I mean, it had to be a low budget video.
I would think. I mean, that was a major Morbid Angel was on at the time. It was Giant
That's
Records,
true.
which
That's true.
so they probably had
Mhm.
some money, but I mean, I
Yeah.
love that video. I love that song. That whole album's probably my favorite Morbid Angel record. And the low baritone clean vocals in that, I'm like, was was he listening to Cathedral? Because this sounds like that part sounds like Forest of
Yeah, it's
Equilibrium.
out of left field. Yeah.
Yeah.
It had to
Um,
sound even stranger then.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was definitely I remember picking that up when it came out and being a big fan of Altars and Blessed and being like, okay, they're not going full like Entombed and doing something really different. Um
Yeah.
or Carcass and getting progressively more melodic. Like it just sounds like a better produced Morbid Angel. But like this song in particular is like this is going to be the radio hit. Like I knew it was going to be the music video
Yeah.
even before it came out.
Yeah. My favorite Morbid Angel was actually Domination. I don't know how you feel about Domination.
Domination came out in a period where I was very burnt out on anything metallic and heavy and downtuned. I had a
Oh,
period in like the summer after my junior year into my senior year of high school where I was really into goth and industrial and
mhm.
early 80s hardcore punk and UK punk and stuff. And I just been listening to so much death metal. And I remember that coming out and being like, and actually buying it, even though I hadn't bought like a metal release in a while, and just being like, I don't know. It's all kind of like slower, and David Vincent doesn't sound as like demonic and blah blah blah. And now I go
Mhm.
back to it and I enjoy it. I think it's a great record. I remember I wasn't really feeling it at the time. I think where I was in my life, I wasn't really listening to that much metal. Like just that very brief period. It was like half of
Mhm.
95 and some of 96. And then I got
Yeah.
right back into metal not too long after that.
I'm not really big on industrial that much. I like some of the radio industrial rock from the '90s that I grew up on, but
Filter, is that one of them? Or
yeah, Filter's all right.
Stabbing Westward?
Oh, I loved Stabbing Westward for a while. Yeah, that one. Yeah, actually, Manson, early Manson stuff. I don't know if you're into Marilyn Manson at all, but that's
Not really, but I mean, it was definitely like a force of nature when that stuff blew up. I mean, I will say that. I saw
yeah,
them I saw them at like at a university venue on SU campus, Syracuse, New York, where I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
They had like a big theater that, I mean, the capacity was probably like at least like 700 or 800. Like it could house a lot of people, but it was only like super underground bands that played it. And there was, I mean, maybe 150 people there. It was before Portrait of American Family even came out. It was just when they
Oh,
had I
okay.
think the Smells Like Children EP, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Then 1 year later, I went to see them at the Lost Horizon, which was like the only game in town for like metal bands and rock bands to play, and not a huge club, but still it had a cap of like I think 400 or something like that. And this was
Mm-hmm.
pre the Providence White Lion or White Snake. I always forget which white band, but the Fire in Providence that changed all that.
Oh, right,
Um,
right, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. White Lion.
Great White.
The Great
Um,
White. Oh, yeah.
it was it was before that. So this at the time, this particular club didn't have much in the way of scruples, so they just like packed people in like sardines. And I was pissed because I was stuck in the line waiting to get in. I went after work. I worked at a grocery store down the street. I just wanted to see the opening band, the Lunachicks, who are this all woman like punk band from New York that I liked. Like I didn't even really like Marilyn Manson, but I
Mm-hmm.
didn't get in until they started playing, and the place was like you couldn't move. Like
Yeah.
it took you 20 minutes to get from one side of the club to the other because it was so packed. Everybody was smoking cigarettes. It was
Oh, man.
almost, my eyes were burning. And like
Mm-hmm.
Marilyn Manson came out, dumped water all over the stage because I think he was like hot or something, but started electrocuting himself because he dumped water all over the stage. And then they played 3 songs. I remember they opened with The Beautiful People and everything. And they stopped the set a few times. And finally, he slammed down the microphone and was like, "This is bullshit," and walked off. And it was a mini riot. Like people literally, it was like that drop ceiling, people were like
Yeah.
tearing the ceiling tiles down. I made it outside and there was like a whole bunch of cops outside. People were like wrecking the place. So I had a
Wow.
really interesting Marilyn Manson experience.
Sounds
And
like you
I,
saw the best Manson show of all time.
yeah. It was one of those things that like went down in the lore of that particular town that I grew up in.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I like some of the elements of his stuff, but never really that much of a fan. Some good songs for sure. Definitely knew how to like craft his influences because there's tons of David Bowie
Yeah.
in there, and like I'm sure some old school shit like Bauhaus or whatever. He made it really commercial and everything. Definitely scared
Yeah.
the status quo and
Well,
mainstreamed like
yeah.
satanic stuff.
He was like the last true rock star because since him, I would say the late 90s, 2000, the ones who tend to piss off the parents these days are they don't play rock music, they don't play anything heavy. It's all pop and it's rappers. Rappers tend to be the like I always say kids today don't have a Marilyn Manson really. But
Yeah, I for whatever reason, I mean, I don't follow it that closely because it's not my generation. But
yeah.
a lot of like modern hip hop, a lot of the mumble rap stuff and the SoundCloud. I mean, I don't think that's really a thing anymore, but the SoundCloud rap that was big. Apparently, I mean, I know, for example, like Ghost Main is like he's like a hip hop dude. I don't even know if he's still around, but he, I guess, was really into hardcore and death metal and stuff like that. Um, and I think a lot of that stuff takes influence from types of rock music, but for whatever reason, there's not too much stuff that's guitar and drum based, like live band based. That's
Hmm.
huge, except for that band Turnstile is massive right now. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and there's a few others, but like it's weird. Like there's bands that were playing VFWs that like within a few years were doing like Taco Bell commercials and stuff like that, which is kind of odd. Mostly out of hardcore though. Like yeah, like the aforementioned Turnstile. There's a band called Scowl. Some other stuff like that blew up huge in certain
Hmm.
pockets and markets, but also a lot of people they're not like household name either though. Like a lot of I think norm people probably wouldn't know them. So definitely weird.
I do like
You know,
Scowl. You might have heard of this band. I just just got into, like, in the last week, Flesh Water.
Mm-mm.
Have you heard of Flesh
No.
Water? Okay. Their deal is that, I mean, they're a current band, but they're all, it's completely 90s. It's 90s centric.
Okay.
It's 90s alt metal, basically alternative metal, and it's influenced by a lot of the bands like Helmet and Prong that I mentioned earlier, bands that didn't really fit into any one category, you know, because there were a lot of those in the 90s. I
Oh
really
yeah, for
liked a
sure.
lot of those. Another one was Handsome. I don't know if you remember the band Handsome.
Yeah, yeah. I remember Handsome. Handsome was
Yeah,
cool. Well, there was a
yeah,
lot of that stuff that came out of like the specifically New York hardcore scene, but hardcore in general in the 90s that was like heavy and it was riffy, but it wasn't, it's like they got to learn how to play their instruments a little bit more. Good example
mhm,
being Quicksand, um,
yeah, yeah,
and Into Another and stuff like that. That was
yeah.
also like weirdly alty and kind of post several heavy genres. So I'm always interested in hearing that stuff. When I think of Handsome, I think of like that whole movement like went along with like Quicksand.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, a lot of that stuff is cool, and I'm not surprised that there's new bands doing something along those lines.
Yeah, it seems to be in right now to do the 90s thing.
Oh yeah, yeah,
A lot of bands are forsaking the overproduced, and um, a lot of bands I've noticed they don't. There's a metalcore thing happening, but also an anti-metalcore thing happening.
yeah. I
Uh,
mean, that's been going on since time immemorial. It
yeah,
just keeps
yeah,
evolving into different things. I
hmm,
mean, I remember when metalcore became metalcore, and I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
from the onset, like the stuff that I grew up because that was the big scene in my hometown. I'm from the same city Earth Crisis is from. So like I saw that all that Victory Records stuff blew up, and most of that stuff I really enjoyed, Bloodlet and Damnation AD and Earth Crisis and Integrity and everything.
hmm,
But then like the kind of the second wave of the prettier bands with like super overproduced stuff and kind of rock star attitudes and everything as like From Autumn to Ashes, and
yeah,
there's a bunch more where it's just like not for me at all. So
yeah,
I mean, metalcore never went away. I know there's a lot of bands that kind of came from that and actually just became like serious, straight up metal bands, like the Black Dahlia Murder. I think Job for a Cowboy also were kind of like scene kind of style, but now are just
hmm.
take themselves seriously as a metal band or whatever. So it's
I really
interesting.
like I really liked Shadows Fall when they first came out. The Art of Balance, and even the stuff before that. But
The very first record by Shadows Fall, the one before Brian Fair even joined,
yeah,
Solemn Eyes to the Sky, that
yeah,
is almost like a straight up Gothenburg record. It's great.
yeah,
I saw them before he was in the band because he sang for a band called Overcast before he joined Shadows
hmm,
Fall, and
yeah,
that was awesome. They were really good. Um, yeah, yeah, all that, a lot of that stuff that the kind of was like very professional musicians that came out of hardcore. It was like Shadows Fall, and I'm trying to think what else. It was like that new wave of American metal was the term coined for it or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
A lot of that stuff didn't really do it for me because it was again like I don't mind good production. Like I like it when it serves the music well, but it was like so sonically like huge and everything, and it just sounded like kind of overproduced, but it wasn't my thing, I'll say. But
yeah. That's one of the problems I had with Killswitch Engage when they
that
got
was
really
I
popular.
yeah, brain farting. I was trying to think of Killswitch Engage, and there's
Yeah,
there's there's
yeah.
a handful of other ones that went along with that.
I have to apologize. My dog is barking at the other end of the house. I don't know what she's freaking out about.
That's okay. I have
Yeah.
I
She's
have
not a
two dogs.
Killswitch Engage fan.
That's okay. We have that in common. But no, I mean, hell, great players and stuff, and I mean, they're a Boston area band. Like I know, I have friends of friends of theirs and everything. Cool people, but it's just not really. Lamb of God's another one. Not my thing. That's fine though.
Yeah, yeah. I actually kind of like when Lamb of God was Burn the Priest. I like that
Oh
kind of
yeah,
stuff.
that stuff's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, that early stuff is pretty
it's
good. But
weird. It's almost experimental. But yeah, the up to I'd say what's the album called? It was like right before they got uh, big-ish. Ashes of the Wake. Does that sound familiar? I think it was Ashes of the Wake. I think I had that CD, and then I just kind of fell off of them because I don't know, they kind of fell into kind of I like Pantera personally, but they kind of fell into a Pantera vein where it's just
Mhm.
I don't know. It was groove metal, but not. I don't know how else to. I
Yeah,
don't know how else
yeah.
to describe it.
I mean, there's a lot of things to dislike about Pantera, musically and otherwise. But I mean, yeah, like I was a kid watching Headbangers Ball like everybody else, and when Cowboys came out, I was pretty excited about it. When Vulgar Display came out, I was like, okay, this is very heavy and like very catchy and kind of different than
Mhm.
whatever, Overkill or Testament are doing right now. But there's something about like that influence on other bands. Like if I feel like listening to Pantera, which most of the time I don't, I'll actually like get nostalgic and throw on Cowboys. I don't want
Yeah.
to hear anybody really doing anything that sounds like Pantera, with the exception of Down, the first Down record, because it's,
Mhm.
filled with
Yeah.
stoner metal Louisiana dudes, so.
Yeah. Yeah. I am a big fan of Crowbar.
Oh, me too. A
Yeah.
huge fan. Huge fan.
Yeah. I'm really stoked actually because Kirk is in a band. I think they're called Sun Don't Shine with Kenny Hickey from Typo Negative,
Oh, okay.
and
Cool.
they've released an EP, and it's awesome. It basically sounds like Crowbar meets Typo Negative. But yeah, I know they're working on an LP. I'm a big Typo fan too,
Oh yeah, me
from
too.
back in the day. But yeah, it's Kenny Hickey, Kirk Weinstein, and pretty sure Johnny Kelly is the drummer. That's really good though. I lost my train of thought. Crowbar. Okay, yeah. Crowbar's cool. But where okay, you're in the north now.
Yeah, yeah.
You only lived here for a few years then.
About 3.
Yeah.
My better half got a job working for Epic Games, which is
Oh,
located
okay.
in the Research Triangle. It's located in actually right near the suburb we were living in. We were living in Apex, which is towards Fayetteville, south
Hmm.
of Raleigh. Um, and I mean, I liked Raleigh a lot. The suburbs are really boring, so I'm happy to be back
Hmm.
and in my weird little tourist, witchy tourist town. But I mean, and that didn't work out with the job. She got a new job with somebody else, so we
Hmm.
moved back. But I did enjoy my time down there. It was there was a really cool downtown. There are some really good record stores. Sorry State
Hmm.
Records, great punk label that is also a record store. Some of the nicest people I've ever met work there. There's some pretty good venues. There's this Chapel of Bones venue that opened while I was there. That's like coffee shop during the day, smaller metal venue and bar at night. Like everybody who worked there seemed great. There's some pretty good stuff that came through there. I saw Possessed and Testament. I want to say that, yeah, Possessed and Testament. And then I saw a Testament another time that came through there. It was like a Bay Area Strikes Back thing. Saw some
Hmm.
bigger. I saw like the Descendants and uh, Circle Jerks there. So there it had, it was an okay spot for concerts and stuff, and some really nice people. Just the suburbs, which I was just like, I'm not cut out to live in a cul-de-sac. Like there's nothing going on. And there's
Yeah.
nothing near me except for like a Harris Teeter. Like there's nothing to do.
Hmm.
So it's kind of nice, being because I'm not even from Massachusetts originally. I'm from upstate New York, but I've been in the Boston area pretty much half my life at this stage.
Hmm.
And we have roots that we planted in Salem because we were living here for about 5 or so years before we moved. And it's weird. It's nice to be back, and North Carolina just feels like a weird dream that I had.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, it was the house that we had was great. Like because things are more affordable down there. We had a huge house, but um, you know, I just feel, I definitely feel more comfortable here. And thankfully for me, work and everything, like I'm a healthcare professional, so I'm needed
Okay.
everywhere. Like people are like, please, I'm still getting tons of random spam phone calls from traveling agencies like, hey, we need you over here. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm back in Massachusetts now. So
While I'm thinking of it, how did you approach putting together your top 100 albums? Because that was a really awesome series of videos.
thank you. Boredom was a big part of it. Like I'm always thinking of ways to improve like my content. I'm always thinking of ways to make my channel more entertaining and everything.
Yeah.
Short of actually scripting stuff out, because I'm not that not lazy. But I was I was had a rare kind of slow day at work, and I pulled out a bunch of, I was like, wouldn't it would be over the top to do this, but why don't I try doing, people love lists. Like there's a reason why Watch Mojo is so huge and everything. Like
Mhm.
why don't I do a top 100 of my favorite albums of all time? And it's kind of like not a joke, but it's kind of like a little bit tongue in cheek, because it's so hard to quantify like what's more important than anything
Well, it
else.
has to be arbitrary on some level.
Exactly. It's totally arbitrary. Every single description on all four of the updates says, please take all these selections with a huge salt lick. Like
Mhm.
it's, because it was hard for me to be like, okay, what's my number one? And really
Mhm.
anything in my in that video, that whole last like 25 easily could have been number one. Probably some other stuff from some of the other updates too. But basically what I did was I took like 3 or 4 sheets of paper and I just started writing names of albums down. um, I believe I numbered them, but I didn't really, take that too seriously. And I tried to rank it as, but I didn't overthink it. Um,
Yeah.
and then I took a couple of different colored like highlighters. I think I ran out of highlighters that were different colors and eventually took like a colored pencil. Just tried to color code them per update, like, okay,
Mhm.
these are the top ones. Like I'm gonna be the yellow highlighter. That'll be, Sheer Terror and Dead Can Dance and my favorite accused record and blah blah blah. And then the next ranking was another one. And I just kind of went from there. Some stuff I added. There are a few people that like mentioned their favorite records in the comments, and I was like, oh yeah, you're right. Like Street Cleaner should definitely be on there. I didn't even think of that one. And it's not my next one. I'm actually in the middle of editing my next one, which will go up tomorrow. It's my some of my favorite records from 2025. It's not a list. It's
Okay.
not a countdown. I'm done with that for a while. I'm just talking about
Yeah.
2025 releases. But eventually, probably in the weeks to come, I'm gonna do one that's like, hey, here's like 30 records that should have been on those, because of course I'm gonna miss stuff. So I
Yeah.
have that list. I was just like writing it down scrolling it down on a piece of paper and keep my wallet, just trying to as things come to mind, because there's plenty of stuff that I'm like, oh yeah, Life of Agony, River Runs Red should have been on there. Tons of stuff that just kind of probably Slow Deep and
Mhm.
Hard should have been on there. Tons of important records that just
Yeah.
slipped my mind.
Well, give me a spoiler for the next video. What was give me you don't have to give me your number 1, but give me a record from this past year that you jived with.
Oh, there's a bunch, man. And there's ones that I even forgot. Like I have to edit in like 3 specific records that 2 of which I forgot about. One I just got in the mail yesterday after I finished shooting. Um, there's a band from Portland, Oregon called Alienator. It's like really vicious crossover thrash kind of stuff.
Mm,
There's a lot of newer crossover bands that are great, but they all kind of have a similar sound. I feel like once Power Trip came out, there were a bunch of bands that were like, okay, we're going to do something very close to that, like with certain types of
yeah.
mosh parts and stuff. Very good stuff,
Mhm.
all that stuff. Alienator is a little bit outside of that. It's interesting because they're from Portland, which is where Poison Idea is from, and you can hear a little bit of like Poison Idea in it. It's got a certain like really reverby, stripped down production that kind of reminds me of like that Combat Records kind of production, like the first Megadeth record and like Crumbsuckers and stuff. It's got a
Mm,
very specific like period appropriate sound, and it's just vicious. That's really good. I like that one a lot. There's the Scimitar Cemeterium one. I like that a lot. That came out on Crypt of the Wizard, a band from Denmark, I want to say. It's like
Yeah.
traditional metal with a woman singing, but it's got elements of black metal that are just kind of put in like really seamlessly.
Yeah, I listened to that, like, I was doing something else, so I don't remember what I thought of it, but I let someone else mentioned that, and, I looked it up, so I am familiar with Scimitar.
Yeah, it's really good. There's that steroid Chainmail Commandos LP, this weird combination of like
Yeah.
kind of cock rock and metal, like new wave of British heavy metal with like Devo, and that's brilliant. Like that's really good. I think that's going to be. I haven't really watched any 2025 stuff, but I'm sure plenty of people have talked about that. Um, trying to think what else. Pasmo, that was like this band from the Czech Republic. That's also like a weird combination of like cold, like post punk and metal that I hadn't really heard a distinct style like that.
Hmm.
Um,
Spell that. How do you spell that?
it's PASMO, but there might be some weird squiggle or something over the A because they're from
Oh,
the Czech
okay.
Republic. If you type in Pasmo, it should come up. It came out on Sentient Ruin this year.
Okay, I found it. Yeah, 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 it's got a little accent mark over the A. Okay.
Yeah. Um, I just the record that I just got in the mail, but I've been listening to it for a few weeks because it was out digitally on Bandcamp. There's a band from the Boston area. They're kind of scattered now. I think one guy's in upstate New York, but they're all originally from here. A band called Burning Wind, and they're like awesome, like Motorhead meets Japanese hardcore, with some other like little touches of like maybe a little bit of like twin guitar Iron Maiden action thrown in there. Like it's super Discharge, like just
Mhm,
gnarly, like rock and roll punk kind of stuff. That is very, very good. That just came out. Um, yeah, all those. The new Homefront is really good. That's more like synth driven kind of like punk stuff. Off the top of my head, that's a bunch of them.
mhm. You know more about, music than I have forgotten, so I was gonna ask you, you've used certain terms in your videos, and I'm like, "What is that?" Like,
Okay.
okay, like, what is stadium crust?
Okay. Well, the thing is with Stadium Crust is that it's like a tongue in cheek, sort of pejorative, like goofing on a style of music, but it just kind
Okay.
of stuck because it is a very specific style. So there was a band, I think they're still around in some form or another, but there was a band, they're all dudes from Memphis that moved to Portland called Tragedy. And it's crust punk in that it's like driving, fast kind of dischargey rhythms,
Mhm,
growled vocals, but not quite hitting death metal, crust. But
mhm,
they're very, very good players. And they have these kind of like ascending melodic moments and these kind of very like gloomy, crushing, almost doom metal moments. And everything is very like very dramatic
mhm,
and they only played DIY stuff like DIY festivals and played a lot of small clubs, never very, very dedicated to the anti-corporate ethos, but they were very professional. Like they sounded amazing, they had really great gear, they sounded like they did on the records, just excuse me, a really incredible live band. So I think because of that, they got the term stadium crust because everything
mhm,
sounded so good. And, easily if they wanted to, whatever, signed a Relapse or something, they could have, but they kind of wanted to put out their own stuff. So thus the crust part, I guess. So yeah, stadium crust. There are a lot of funny, like kind of made up terms around that time. Like I remember one was just talking about like the Relapse kind of like Kylesa and Red Fang and bands like that whole era,
yeah, yeah,
calling
yeah,
calling that door guy metal because apparently like a lot of door guys like that stuff. Or somebody called it taking a year off of college metal, which I thought.
yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of that era of just like kind of wise ass like made up genre names.
Okay, alright. Are you into power violence at all?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Really the only power violence band that I've listened to more than regularly is, Man is the Bastard, and
That's a
I
wild
don't
one.
Yeah, I'm assuming they're still known as Power Violence. I don't know if that changes over time, but
Yeah, well, the thing with Power Violence, and I don't think people are really engaging with this argument anymore. But for the longest, there's a early Man is the Bastard track, which is like almost hip hop style with like a shout out, is like naming all the original bands in that scene as like
mhm,
Infest and I think I'm not sure if Crossed Out. I think maybe Despise You. I'm trying to remember. Then they list off like four or five bands, and they were all from Southern California. They all had a distinct like kind of aesthetic and approach to playing music. I think they're all pretty discernible from each other. Um, and for the longest time, newer bands would come out that would kind of sound like Infest or kind of sound like Crossed Out or whatever, and they'd be like, "Oh, there's a new Power Violence band from what Sheboygan or whatever," and somebody would put their actually glasses on and be like, "It's not Power Violence unless it's these six bands," and
right.
because it was a genre tag, not really so much intended to describe a sound, but to describe like give a name to a scene. And the thing is after the years, it just like there were so many bands that came out in that style that there's nothing else to call it. Like this sort of like blasting grind, but it's too punk to be grind. And then going into these sludge parts, like it's a very distinct style that there was just nothing else to call it other than Power Violence. You could just call it hardcore and that would be fine because it is. It's a
Mhm,
a micro genre of hardcore, but
yeah,
it's the best way to describe it, you know? So people finally laid off of that, which is good because it's obnoxious, you know, especially because there were second and third wave bands there was a band called Scapegoat from Boston that loved all that stuff, particularly Crossed Out, and really went for a specific like period appropriate sound worshiping that stuff.
mhm,
And what else are you going to call them, you know? Like
yeah, yeah.
so
Well, okay, like here's one of the things I was wanting to ask you because I'm big on guitar solos. I'm a melody nerd.
okay.
So if but give me like because I want to get more into hardcore, but I don't know. Give me are there any bands that do the guitar solo thing?
Yeah.
Like I
Um
mean, aside from metalcore, obviously.
Well, I mean, have you listened to Integrity much?
A little bit, but it's been a
I
very long time.
I would suggest like the first three Integrity records. Those Who Fear
Okay.
Tomorrow, Systems Overload, and Humanity is the Devil. There's great solos all over that.
Okay.
The Melnick brothers, just shredders, and Frank Six Gun. Ringworm too. A lot of the Cleveland hardcore stuff had really good solos. Face Value, Ringworm, Integrity.
Mhm.
A lot of Japanese stuff. A lot of the Blazing Spirits hardcore stuff has some pretty cool solos like Bastard and Deathside.
Mm.
Um, there's a fair amount of also like melodic kind of crust stuff. Like Wolf Brigade are have like some really good metal elements, including like some pretty face melting solos and stuff. That band I just talked about, Burning Wind.
Mhm.
Um, Inepsy, who are like directly in the middle of like Motorhead and Discharge. They're
Mm.
great. Um, yeah, I think that should get you started. But yeah, there's like a lot
Okay.
of I like there's a lot of Swedish and Japanese like D beat that involves like soloing and stuff like that.
Mhm. Yeah, there's a ton of Japanese I haven't even scratched the surface with the Japanese bands. There's too there's too many bands, period.
Yeah,
I can't get into all of it. Like there's one I'm sure you know them, a band called Jism.
Gizm. Yeah.
Gizm. Okay. Yeah. I still haven't listened to any of that stuff, but yeah,
It's a
there's
good
like
place to start with
mhm,
Japanese hardcore. It is a little, I don't know, it depends on how your tolerance for like super abrasive stuff. I mean, Sakive's vocals are like really garbled and growly. And the production is like deliberately staticky and raw. But
mhm,
Randy Uchida, the guitarist, is another shredder and plays some really cool, like, it's funny because the music sounds like is produced like lo-fi punk like Crass or something like that, but it's got
mhm.
these blazing like Iron Maiden solos all over it. And this guy that, I mean, his voice sounds like a garbage disposal. It's
Yeah.
it's certainly an acquired taste, but it's legendary for a reason.
I don't
Yeah,
think the
I should have
production
mentioned.
would. I don't think the production would bother me too much because I do like mid '90s Dark Throne. I'm big
Oh
on.
yeah, yeah.
So
You
yeah,
you you'd be
I could
fine with
probably
that
hang. Yeah, I could probably
for
hang
sure.
with that. Some bands just have discographies that are just so huge. It's a bit intimidating.
I mean, I'm
Uh,
still like trying to get my head around a lot of Japanese hardcore, and I've been listening to it since like 1998. You know, like I
mhm,
mean, Gizm was one of the first things that was handed to me by my friend Mike. He taped it for me. Um, and like the building block bands, Gizm, there's a band called Gauze,
mhm,
a handful of others, but there's still more and more stuff that I'm hearing. Like, oh, this is a legendary band from Osaka. They've been around since the 80s. I'm like, yeah, never even heard of them. you know,
yeah, yeah,
same thing with a lot of the Scandinavian punk and hardcore stuff, like and Italian and Spanish. Like all these countries had these very underground thriving scenes that were
mhm,
going for so long, and a lot of it didn't really start seeing the light of day on vinyl, like available in the West or at least in the US, until very late 90s, early 2000s. And there's certain labels like FOAD from Italy that, I mean, they ship to the US. Their imports are, it's kind of expensive, but they reissue tons of
mhm,
great stuff. And discovered, I'm like, pretty much anything they put out, I'm like, I'm gonna like this because it's some crazy hardcore band's discography that I've never heard of, and they do a really good
mhm,
job like that. So a lot of, thankfully, people are putting in the work. So a lot of this stuff is available, but a lot of, even the legendary bands, like the Italian bands, big, like one of the most well-known Italian hardcore band is called Raw Power. By the way, if you're looking for cool solos in hardcore and punk, that's another good place to look. Um,
okay,
Poison Idea too, but they're American. Raw Power were really well known because they toured the States. Like they're like almost the only, I think, Italian band that toured the States in the 80s and
hmm,
90s. After that, there were like other bands that I didn't have access to for years, like Wretched and Negazione and all these like legendary bands where you had to just like order a dubbed tape out of the back of Maximum Rock and Roll. And you really didn't start seeing get it like nice, proper reissues of it until like the 2000s. So a lot of it I'm playing catch up with. I'm just like, I have thousands of records and I'm still like, getting acclimated. That was the nice thing about when I was in North Carolina was Sorry State pedals and that stuff, and those guys love that kind of hardcore. So getting a
mhm.
hold of it was like very easy in that I didn't even have to order it. I just have to drive 20 minutes into downtown Raleigh. So I spent a lot of hard-earned money at that place, thankfully.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about because I know you're a collector. I saw one of I think it was a short you posted, but I don't know when it was. Because of the algorithm, it just pops up, and I have no idea if it's 3 years old or what. But you showed your VHS, your horror VHS
Oh yeah,
collection.
that's pretty recent. That was right after I set that shelf up downstairs, so earlier
Hmm.
this year.
Cool. How do you still buy VHS, or is that?
Yeah, but not very often. That shelf is totally full. So I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, I
Yeah.
buy VHS, I buy DVDs, I buy Blu-rays. I don't, it's a secondary collecting thing. I haven't
Mhm.
bought any VHS in months, but uh yeah, I mean, and it's not just horror either. Like if you look
Mhm.
closely at that short, there's like I just watched um National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Like
Mhm.
my philosophy with collecting VHS is I don't want to spend more than like $10 because
Yeah.
it is like an inferior format, like there's arguments about digital versus vinyl and for sound
Yeah.
quality and stuff. There's none of that with VHS. Like VHS just don't look great. But
It's purely a nostalgia thing.
I have an old school tube TV, like a huge old Sony Trinitron. At some
Mhm.
point, I'm gonna do a record room and downstairs tour of all my stuff. That's on the back burner right now. But I do, there is something about it. Like I've got a really nice big stereo with tower speakers hooked up to that, and this big ass Sony Trinitron, and just popping in a VHS and letting her rip. Like it's pretty cool. But like
Mhm.
you look at my VHS, it's weird. You look at my VHS collection, and I'd like to think that people look at it and be like, yep, these are movies that should be watched on VHS, like Con Air. I have like 4 Jean-Claude Van Damme movies. Like I have
Hmm.
Bloodsport and
Yeah.
No Retreat, No Surrender. Like I own Cyborg on VHS, like
Yeah.
all this, a lot of B movie stuff, Cabin
Hmm.
Boy, like stuff like that. A lot of like the Blu-ray stuff I have is stuff that's a little bit more like, oh, I want to watch this in high fidelity, but
Hmm. What's
yeah,
the what's the most you've spent on a record?
not that much. I think the most I spent was in person, because that's usually when they get me, is when I'm out kind of like casually shopping at a record store and I see
Hmm.
something on the wall.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, it's a wall record. Oh, I want that. But it was at a record store day at Armageddon Records in Cambridge, Massachusetts, about 10 years ago. And they didn't just do the record store day releases. They would be like, oh, we got these really awesome records we're gonna put out on the shelf. And I
Hmm.
I spent $75 on Demigod Slumber of the Sullen Eyes on the original
Okay.
pressing. And that's worth a lot more now, at least if you're going by Discogs. So
Hmm.
that's the most I've spent, about 7. And there's a few others I'm trying to think of that got close to that. That original pressing of Forest of Equilibrium, I think, was like 50 plus shipping. I got before they've all been reissued now, although they might be sold out already. I don't know. I got an original pressing of Danzig 1. I also got that at
Hmm.
Armageddon. I think that was 60, something like that. So yeah, I mean, I haven't gone super crazy with, I'm more of a pure volume of purchases, like
Yeah.
rather than, just one spending a lot. And there's been a few 7 inches too, like some Seraphic Decay, like that old death metal label. I've spent like 40 to $50 on a 7 inch for a few of those.
Yeah. I can relate. Only mine would be comic books. I've spent $50 on a comic, and oddly enough, it would be one that would be on the. It was one that was on the wall that they were displaying. Something about the wall material. Something
Yeah,
about the stuff on the wall. You just gotta have it.
that's how they get you.
Uh, yeah. Well, we've been talking for over. I think we've hit an hour.
Just about.
Yeah. Thanks again for doing this, man.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I wanted to interview you. I liked your takes on the whole Metal Mickey debacle, and I
Yeah.
liked the way. I mean, I liked your take on it because not a lot of people. Not that you took his side. That's not what I mean.
No, some
But you
people
were
seem
able
to,
to see both sides of it.
yeah, some people were like, I see you're taking the middle path here. I'm like, I'm really not. Like, he definitely said shit that was out of pocket, but I think he's
Yeah.
going through some shit. Like that was
Hmm.
mainly my thing, is like, I don't know if he's doing okay. I think that's
Hmm.
that's kind of the deal. And I think there should be accountability, especially if you're saying, messed up stuff about people's appearance, and or at least implying it. That's not
Yeah.
cool. But also, like, why exactly? Like, what's going on with the guy? I don't know. I'm very, I try to be empathetic to all people, and it's a tough line to toe between, giving people the benefit of the doubt, but also being like, hey, that was a screwed up thing you said. Like, that's not
Hmm.
friggin' cool. So
Yeah.
and the original thing that I did, because I've been so brain rotted, like addicted to like stupid YouTube drama content and everything. I actually, I couldn't, it's a good thing and a blessing that I couldn't do a live reaction to all this stuff, because sometimes my internet's really spotty in here. Thankfully it's fine right now. But I did a full like breakdown reaction to Mickey's video, Melanie's video, Mickey's reaction to that, and then like I think Warhammer 666's video,
Oh, okay.
and That Goat Metal Show's video. And I talked, and I was just babbled, and I definitely said some, I was just trying to be funny, but I definitely was like, by the end of it and rewatching it, I was like, I'm not releasing this. I just do not want to deal with a bunch of people screaming at me, because I was trying
Yeah.
to be, I was joking around and kind of clowning on everybody, really. And I was like, this is just gonna bring me a world of pain, and I work full time. I don't have time for this shit. So
Hmm.
I I used a little bit of it in like the my take on it, which I took down anyway. But it's still in the can. Like I might go back and feel nostalgic and watch it by myself. I'm never gonna release it because I was like, no, don't do that, dude.
Uh, yeah, I guess I'll go ahead and cut it off there. But yeah, thanks again. And this will go up in a few days. I just put up a video today, so
Cool.
it'll be 2 or 3 days, and then this will go up.
Right on.
But yeah,
Thanks
cool.
so much for having me, man.
Yeah. This is cool. I'll see you later in the comments and whatnot,
Cool.
or wherever. All
I'll be
right,
sure
later.
I'll
Yeah.
share when it's out.
All right, cool. Thanks. Later.
All right. Peace out.